Hello students, let us begin with our history. Chapter number 1, what, where, how and when. In this chapter, we will be doing the following topics, which include occupation of the people in the past, where did people live, earliest cities, the making of the word India, ways to find about the past, one or many pasts, and what do dates mean. So let us proceed with the explanation of the chapter. First, it is important for us to understand that early people were in different types of occupations. Mainly, the common people were hunters and gatherers. Others were seen as herders who used to domesticate animals for their own use. Then, a category of rulers, priests, which means Brahmins, and the craft persons. So, these were the occupation of people in the past. Now, where did these people live? Now, people have lived along the banks of the river Narmada for several 100,000 years. Some of the earliest people who lived here were skilled gatherers, which means they used to gather their food to eat. They knew about the vast wealth of the plants in the surrounding forests and collected roots, fruits, and other forest produce for their food. Moreover, they also hunted animals. Some of the areas where women and men first began to grow crops such as wheat and barley were around the Suleiman and Kirthar hills. People also began to rear animals like sheep, goat, cattle, etc. Then, around the Garo hills and Vindhyas, these were the areas where agriculture first developed. In this area, rice was first grown. Now, let us have a look at these places. Now, here are the Suleiman and the Kirthar hills. Then, here are the Garo hills towards the northeast. Then, we have the river Narmada in the central India, and just towards the west of river Narmada, we have the Vindhya range. Clear? Let's move ahead. Let us learn about the earliest cities. About 4,700 years ago, some of the earliest cities flourished on the banks of river Indus and its tributaries. Later, around 2,500 years ago, cities also were found being developed around the banks of river Ganga and its tributaries. Students, you will be amazed to know that around the river Ganga, one of the most powerful and a large kingdom of ancient India named Magad prospered. Now, why did people travel from one place to another? People often traveled from one place to another in search of livelihood and to prevent themselves or escape themselves from natural disasters. They also took their armies to conquer other person's land. They carried valuable goods from place to place. Many of the religious teachers stopped in between to offer instruction and advice on their way. Many of the hunters-gatherers also traveled in the spirit of adventure and to discover new and exciting places. This traveling from one part to the other led to the sharing of ideas between the people. Now let us understand about how the name of our country, India, came into being. Today, we often refer our country as India and Bharat. But where did this word India come from? The word India came from the river Indus, which was called Sindhu in Sanskrit. The Iranians and the Greeks, who came from northwest about 2,500 years ago, called Indus as Hindos or Indos. And they also referred that people who lived towards the east of this river Indus were called Indians. The name Bharat was also used for the group of people who lived in the northwest and who are mentioned in the Rig Veda, the earliest composition in Sanskrit, about 3,500 years ago. Now, students, we are talking about the past. But From where do we get to know about these pasts? We get to know from the manuscripts and the inscriptions. Now, next question I am sure which must be coming in your mind is that what are manuscripts and what are inscriptions? Let us understand. Manuscripts. Manuscripts were the scripts which are written by hand. These were usually written on palm leaf or specially prepared bark of the tree known as birch, which is grown in Himalayas. Over the years, many of the manuscripts are eaten away by insects and many are destroyed. But few have survived in temples and monasteries. These books dealt with all kinds of subjects, which include religious beliefs and practices, the lives of kings, medicine, and science. Besides, epics, poems, and plays were also written. These were written in Sanskrit, Prakrit, and later the Tamil language. Now let us understand that what are inscriptions. Students, inscriptions are relatively written on hard surface such as stone or metal. Sometimes kings used to get their orders inscribed so that people can read and obey them for a longer period of time. There are other kinds of inscriptions as well, where men and women, especially kings and queens, recorded what they did. For example, kings often kept a record of victories in the battle. Though people who study these objects, such as inscriptions and manuscripts, are known as archaeologists. Archaeologists are responsible to study the remains of buildings which are made up of stone, brick, different paintings, and sculptures. It is their duty to explore and excavate, which means to dig under the surface of the earth to find tools, weapons, pots, pans, etc. Many of the tools and objects which are found by the archaeologists are made up of stone, bone, baked clay, metal, etc. Archaeologists have also found bones of animals, birds, and fish, which means that people must have eaten these in the past. Historians are the scholars who study the past, which means they gather information from inscriptions, manuscripts, and archaeology. So in this way, we can say that historians and archaeologists are like detectives who find clues about our past. One or many pasts. We often use the term past in plural to draw attention to the fact that past was different for different people. We are sure that your past will be different from your parents' past, and your parents' past will be different from your grandparents' past. Am I right? In the similar way, the lives of the herders and farmers were different from those of kings and queens, and the lives of merchants were different from those of craft persons, and so on. We know a great deal about kings and battles they fought because they kept records of victories. Generally, ordinary people such as hunters, fishing folks, gatherers, farmers, or herders do not keep record of what they usually did. What do dates mean? Students, when you talk about dates, you find common terms such as BC, AD. What does BC mean? BC means before Christ and AD means Anno Domini. The meaning of the word Anno Domini is after death. We take AD, which means after the death of Jesus Christ, and BC, which means before the death of Jesus Christ. Today we are living in 2021. So will it be BC or it will be AD? Absolutely right. It will be AD because we are living 2021 years after the death of Jesus Christ, which means 2021 AD. So students, that was about a quick explanation of history chapter number 1. Let us have a look at few questions. You all are requested to read these questions and solve them by going through the reading of the chapter and listening to the explanation. Thank you.